Hi, my name is Kevin Thomas, and this is W1DED Worldwide Ham Radio. It seems that I've been using words like legendary, venerable, and world-class a lot lately. Today, I'll use them again. I'm talking to Luca Alaprandi, IK2NCJ. Luca is the founder and co-owner of the truly legendary D4C Contest Superstation in Cape Verde. He's competed in the World Radio Sport Team Championship and was part of the organizing committee for the 2022 WRTC in Italy. Welcome to the show, Luca.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for the invitation. I'm very pleased to be here with you.
Well, I'm very happy that you were able to fit me in. I've been blessed with conversations with a lot of very talented ham radio contesters lately, and I've got to do a shout out to Andrea IK4VET because he's been the link on almost all of these. So thank you for taking your time today. I think that you started in ham radio back in 1990, but I'm not sure. But please tell us how you got started and what that was all about.
Yeah, actually, I was licensed firstly in 1990, and I got into the amateur radio for just a casualty. Many years before I got the license, because I was too young to get the license at the time. I was spending a vacation with my family and with another group of friends, and because we were separated in different apartments, we just used to keep in touch together using CD radios. So at that time, none of my family was involved in radio transmission at all, not even electronics or something. So by the time they started the curiosity to me how I could hear these people that actually they were not so far away, but anyway, they were not with me in the same room, and I could listen them, and they were able to listen my voice, and so this start to make me curious about radio transmissions. So after a few years, I started, as probably most of us, to do activity on CB band, and I remember that when I asked, at that time I was young, I was 14 or 15 years old, and when I asked my father to buy me a radio, he said, "I'm not sure I'm gonna do it because this is a hobby that you will run over for maybe 6 months, 1 year, and then you will put it away." And it's now I'm 56. And I am more involved than before. So that was just a casualty, by the way, to start to have this feeling with the radios.
So tell me how you got your start in contesting. I know that eventually you hooked up with I3MAU, another legend in ham radio contesting. But how did that happen? How did you get into contesting, and how did you first make his acquaintance and get invited to his station?
Yeah, I immediately got in touch with the contesting world. At home I had a very small stations at the time, and I was invited by the IK2BHX, that is not active anymore, to join this, I think it was WPX contest. And so I was just curious because I think one of the best characteristic I have is to be curious on everything. So I wanted to see, SPMA, this is the most beautiful station in Italy, and very nice people. And so I started the contest. I joined this team, and the approach was amazing for me. All these contesters and the station with the very high towers, big antennas. At that time we were running multi, so many places where we can put our voice out inside the house. And then lately I also involved Stefano IK2QAI to join the team, and so we start together. Stefano is living something like 2 miles from my home, so we are really a neighbor, and it was very easy for me to be in contact with him. And so that's I was definitely with the contesting virus immediately, because I like competition, and it was a very strange kind of competition that even now when people ask me what you do with this competition, I'm not sure what how I can explain it, because it's just a particular feeling for me. And so I just explained it like we have to contact as much amateur radio station over the world in a certain time over a weekend, without getting too much into the details, of course, because it's too technical. But anyway, I started actually in 1990 with A3MAU, and then lately I moved to Italy, Quebec for Alpha, that now is Italy Radio for X-ray, now Italy Papa for X-ray. That was also a multi-single station, top, always scoring top score in Europe actually. So it was, for me, was every step was a forward step to improve my skills, to know new people, to create a good background, technical background in how to set up station, how to operate, how to know propagation, how to search a station, all these skills that you need generally for the contest. And I'm still have this curiosity.
So first of all, I find it really intriguing that you knew Stefano, IK2QEI, and now years and years later, decades later, you both are connected with contest superstations, some of the best in the world. So that's fascinating. I want to dig into that later on. But I want to go back to 1990. If you just got licensed in 1990, how did you get invited to such a great station?
It was just a case. Actually, this Piero IK2 BHX was knows that I3MAU was searching for new operators, young operators, to be because he likes to share the station. He likes to have people with more enthusiasm over the inside the team, and he's very, very dedicated to young people. So actually, I don't even expect to operate at least at the first time, because for me it was it's completely new world. Even if we are still talking about radio, but the rigs, all the setup and everything was something that I could not even imagine it was possible to be done. And when I saw this performance of the station, with this, particularly that solar cycle was very good for in the history. So one of the best in the history. So I remember the Whiskey 6 signals on 10 meter, really breaking the needle of the radio, and I was just shocked because those people was talking so far away, and they just sounds like they were with me in the room, and so this accelerate my interest in big stations, let's say.
Do you remember what lessons you learned early on when you were operating with I3MAU and some of these other contest superstations? Did you pick up some tips and tactics right away?
Yeah, actually, on multi, first of all, there is no much tactic than to have a run and to have a very good operator to manage the station. I mean, the band itself, because you are generally divided band by band in teams of operators. And what I was really shocked was the capability of this man and his family actually to create a very good atmosphere inside the station, and how we manage all the logistic, how we manage to have like 15 people all together for 48 hours, and then they run out of the house after the contest, and for 1 year you don't you don't see any of them anymore, or roughly most of them, and so I was really shocked on technical preparation of Renzo. Together with I3JSS, so most of the things I saw were modified, especially the radio to reduce interference between bands. The amplifier were on brew. Many things were really done with passion, really passionating, and with the target to create a real good. A good performing station, and then to share these things, this feeling with other people, and this was really the first thing that really I noticed when I was there.
So was most of your operating multi-operator, or was it single operator also?
No, mostly multi-operator. I like a lot multi-operator.
You had all these great experiences over years, and I think you went to your first WRTC in 2010, possibly maybe that was Moscow.
Yeah, correct.
So tell me about that experience. What was that like qualifying for the first time for WRTC and making that trip?
Actually, I was not qualified. I was just invited by Stefano, that took over from another operator that first invited me, and then I had to give up to participate to join the WRTC 2010. And so Stefano was the next operator with the possibility to join the event, and so Eritrea invite him to make substitution, and so Stefano asked me immediately, because I was already in the track to be that. I have already part of the hardware ready, the radio, and all the things we need to join properly the contest, and so Stefano invite me to join it to this new experience. That it's WRTC. I cannot for my personal experience, I cannot explain it as a contest. Okay, it is a contest, but really when you are competing with these such a high level operators, it is really another feeling. And just the fact to be there is impressive. To how much you can grow your experience, talking each other to other, to people that you probably had the chance to meet in person on that specific event, and this gave me many information, because at that time most of them, there were Americans that had already the station in the Caribbean, or Harry himself was operating from 5 Bravo 4. So it was a good, with my curiosity, was a good moment, good choice good chance to collect information and about how to build, to have what's the feeling to have such a good competitive position, and all this stuff, and this keep growing. All the rest that come after this WRTC event.
So after operating in 2010 in the WRTC, and I believe you also competed in 2014 in the Boston WRTC, I know you were part of the organizing committee in Italy. What was that experience like, to be on the other side of competing and now actually putting together a World Radio Sport Team Championship in your home country?
Yeah, actually, I think first of all the good organization was done because the core team of WRTC 2022 was really in a very good feeling, and so I didn't join since the beginning. I joined later, like last 9 months of before the event. They had already a lot of trouble with the COVID. We had the flooding even just a few months before the event, that we lost a lot of position that we were already we have already selected to be as a potential station host. So we had some really difficult situation to face, but again, determination of these people that actually was the fundamental characteristic for the entire core team of WRTC, bring us to have it organized, I think, in a very good way. And of course, there is in my mentality, I cannot I will never say that everything was running properly, because you can always have room to improve your setup. Generally speaking, this is my motto for my life, so not just for the amateur radio hobby. So we could do something better for sure, but at the end of we were really satisfied on the final result, and probably what I was able to bring them was the experience into WRTC in 2010 and 2014 that could give me more ideas to bring in the organization of the Italian event, to have it in the best way as possible. but it was a very extreme, time-consuming, power-consuming experience, but was very interesting for myself.
Let's move on to D4C. We're all very intrigued to hear more about D4C in Cape Verde. Arguably, it is the most successful contest superstation in the world. We all know, or many people know, that Emir Mehmek E77DX probably just set a new world record in the high power category, CQ Worldwide CW. So we're all waiting with bated breath to see if that becomes official soon. So great track record at D4C. Tell me about the background of starting D4C and how that all came about.
Cape Verde project has the roots in the past century. Because everything started when we organized as Marconi Contest Club in the 90s, IG9A, the expedition for the CQ Worldwide in 1999 and 2000. At that time, we had the chance to compete with very well organized CN8 whiskey stations that actually beat us not for a big difference of score. They were setting the new world record at the time, and we were so close to them. But we understand that what penalized a lot of us was the position. So with a group of people that was participating to IG9A, we decided to test something else. So we make some research with I4UFH, with other guys, where with IV3TAN, and now it's living in Hong Kong, is Victor Radio 2 X-ray Alpha November, and we analyze where to go, and so we just selected this area of West Africa as potentially a good position. Because of some propagation characteristic, because of the equator, because of potential openings of the band, and so we start to move to check first if it was the correct choice. And so in 2000, we all of us we were attending again IG9A, but Alberto IV3TAN, he was flying to Delta 4 and making the first test from the station of Angelo in Praia, Delta 44 Bravo Sugar, and to understand if really the potential of the location was as expected. And I remember after the contest, he sent us some recordings, and we were just shocked what we could we could hear as a pile-up. So it was already, and the journey started at the time that we understand the potential of the country itself, because it was not so common to have it active during the contest, and the potential of the position, geographical position, was very high, and so we started to plan to create the first project, let's say, because actually Cape Verde activity is divided in two projects. Before D4C and D4C itself.
So tell me more about before D4C.
Yeah, before D4C, we were located on different islands. Thanks to CT1 Echo Sierra Victor, we got in contact with good friends CT1 Echo Kilo Fox, that is Delta 44 Tango Delta. That is he has a house in Santa Maria in Sal Island, and when we first approached him, he was very enthusiastic to have such project running in his house, and so we start to face some difficulties because of the logistic, because we had to bring all material there, and you have to do custom clearance. It was not so easy, but at the end, in 2001, we started. We had the two towers with the two Force 12 4-band antenna, very small, the C4 XL, and then a Titanics for low bands. And at that time we had all the surrounding like a desert, so we could put beverage without any limit, and so we started we ran into the first secure wide SSB as a multi-single, and we set the world record at the first attempt. So we did more than 10,000 QSO. That was for a European was like something. Am I dreaming or what? That was in 2001. So and then we keep going in from this location for a few years. Then the city grew up so quickly that we found the station inside the town, actually, because they were building many hotels, many houses, and so on. So in 2006 we decided to. We understand it was time to move because there was not any more room for our activity.
So in 2006, who were the we? Who were the operators involved?
It was their core team was like me, like was IK2JUB, I4UFH, IK4UPB, and I4 Yankee Sierra Sierra, and IV3TAN.
So at that point, you needed to find another location. What was that process like?
We understand that we had to move from this location, and in 2002, after our effort in 2001, there was Alexander for Lima 5 Alpha that probably noticed that the potential of the location, and so he started his own station on another island, on Sao Vicente Island. And we were he was mostly competing as single operator, so we had not any competition between us. We had a very good relationships, and sharing data, sharing have a conversation about the difference between our location and his location, or usual conversation you have between contestants. And after he was there since 2002. And after a few years, he gave up. Actually, he stopped his activity, and so we were such in a good relation that he first offered us to take his property, his location, and keep going with this kind of activity from Monteverde. And actually, we decided to take it, and now we are, after many years, we are still there.
So I'll put some photos up on the screen so people can actually see what it looks like there, but it's quite a complex. Tell me all that you have, and I know it's a long list, but what do you have for towers and antennas?
I think now we have we have 12 towers, I think, and all antennas are monobanders by MomoBeam. MomoBeam has been since 2010 has been a very important technical supporter of us, and we have no rotors because the location doesn't like too much to have rotors because it's very windy, and we have 4 antennas for from 10 to 20 meter, and then we have 3 antennas on 40, and now we have a 4 square on 80 meter. Before we have several tests with different antennas. The good part is that the towers were so high that even low band antennas can perform quite good, and but all this stuff on that specific location takes a lot of time in maintenance, and every time it's a surprise when you arrive there first before the contest. You have you can find bad surprises.
And what about inside the shack, Luca? What do you have for gear?
Yeah, we inside the shack, the house it's a real house. Actually, it has a kitchen. It has a big room for radioactivity, and has a shack, and then a bathroom, bedrooms, and so on. And but it is definitely a home that it is dedicated for amateur radio. You cannot use it for anything else. Also because the environment outside is so harsh that you cannot think you are, you're not like Caribbean style where, you go to PJ2T or PJ4G and, you have a very nice sunny location with the swimming pool maybe. No, that's not our case, definitely. So, and as radios, we have, we did use different radios over the years, of course. The first big improvement was when we used the K3s, especially on CW. They brought us really an added value. And then since 2019, we are using we had agreement with the Flex Radio, and we are using the Flex Radio that also bring us, in my opinion, added value for other characteristic of the radio. So this is mainly what we are using now.
I'm curious, ham radio operators are always in a state of flux. There's always something better, a better antenna, better something, better radio. Is there something on the horizon for your team to add to D4C?
It's very difficult to identify what you can be improved when you are luckily already close to the top or at the top sometimes. The first thing that can make us to improve what we have is the competition with the others. So without competition with other stations like CN3A, like the Echo Alpha 8 stations or the Caribbean stations, you never get enough power to shrink your brain and find what you can really improve. Okay, so first step for our approach to the project is to have real good competition, and that can put you in condition to think what a different solution on what you have already. Then, of course, there are some technical things that you can still improve. And for example, since 2013, we start to add stacks on 10, 15, and 20. Even on 40 meter, we have one stacks to Europe with a wire Yagi we have. So it was very challenging to understand what was the correct height of those stacks and how to manage those stacks, the distance, because we had personally had no experience with stacks, and because of the soil we have, the position, location, we were not even sure that HFTA simulation could be a correct track to follow. So what we did was to have to install these stacks band by band, and then having a different antenna, single antenna on the same direction, and running FT8 receiving. And so we could compare openings, we could compare signal strengths, and because we are not there every day, we were able to do this study over the months. So it was really a good indication that the stacks was working correctly. And so sometimes we even modified the stacks, the length, the distance between the two antennas and so on, to try to have the correct balance, and with the idea to keep it simple without stacking relays or something, just a fixed coax connected stack to the direction, and to make it easy and performing.
So Luca, you use the word we a lot. Is this truly a collaborative technical effort, or are you leading the charge? Are you the person that is the chief station designer?
Without a team, it's impossible to survive. Okay, so this is definitely 100% a teamwork. To the people who approach us in the past, I always push a lot that this is an everyday job. Even if you are 5,000 miles away, it's an everyday job, because you have always something running. At least it's for me, something running in your brain, and then you have to face local problems with the environment, with wet damage, just 2 weeks ago with some lightning, for example, and so we need to check what is broken. But this keeps you continuously on it, 100%, and but it cannot be run by one person alone. It must be definitely a team to follow all this stuff, to bring new ideas, to help develop these ideas. And after the years now, we have I think the core team is really sophisticated with the different aspects from different peoples, different experience, different background in amateur radio, but not only, also in life. And this mixture brings us to really a top level. Now it's very, let's say, easy to handle any problem that we can face in Monteverde.
When you talk about, Luca, the preparation before a contest, I'm pretty sure that I saw photos of Emir on the towers in the days before the CQ Worldwide. So I guess he's actually practicing what you're preaching, that he arrived and he got everything in shape and then sat down for 48 hours and broke a world record.
Yeah, definitely. When you must be very flexible in doing everything when you are there, and you have also to be focused that you're not in Europe or in United States, where if you need a screw, you can pick up your car and find the correct one. You are in Africa, where most of the things are imported and not the quality we want. You cannot find connector, RF connector, you cannot find. So actually in Monteverde we have like a shop. We are organized like a shop. We have almost everything to face any possibility, any failure, and to have a fix. Of course, this is very important because if you have the correct tools and you have the correct spare parts, you can easily fix what can be broken. Of course, one of the most damage we have is on antennas, because antennas are constantly under pressure, and because I think it's better when you are in Cape Verde, generally speaking, but especially on our island, you can count, it's easier to count days of the year without wind than the one with the wind. And when the wind is blowing, is really blowing. So this continuously mechanically brings stress to the antenna. So very often some elements are broken. Sometimes we had damage on the towers. Some towers over the years falls down because of high wind. One year we had a hurricane with a gust of 200 and more kilometers per hour wind that damaged one tower. So you have to be prepared to climb in tough situation, or you have to be prepared. You must know how to put connector. You must know how to change bulbs, how to fix generator. You cannot get too much bored on when you are there.
So Luca, clearly you have your core team that are responsible for D4C, but you're also inviting in other operators that aren't normally part of that team. How do you go about selecting and inviting those operators in?
Actually, over the years, we expand so much our knowledge over the meetings in the AmFest that we got in contact with so many people. I think until now we got guest operator from probably 40 or 50 different countries. Actually, the time that I like more was when at the beginning, so talking about 2007, 2008, 2009, this when we really started operation in Monteverde. I set up, at that time I was leading the CW activity, and I was able to build together with Geertz, Yankee Lima 2 Kilo Lima, that the time was one of the core team, to create these Lithuanians and Latvians operators, CW operators, top level CW operators team, that they were coming every year. So, and every year we could add more operators, but the core of the team was already familiar with our propagation, with our hardware, with our location, and so this makes a lot of easier the things to, in preparation of the contest and the contest itself. And so that was the time where really I had really the feeling that this team was feeling at home when they joined Monteverde. Then of course, unfortunately, they stopped to join the activity from there for different reasons, of course. So we try to involve more people. Of course, CW is a particular mode of emission, so it's not so easy to get so many people that can handle this very stressful pileup. So we were more focused on the SSB because it was of course more easy to find operators for the SSB team. And every time we collect these people, and actually they look pretty happy to be there. So this is a consider that the contest for us start at least January before the contest, okay? Because we need to start to get in contact with people who is available, who's not available, to count them, to decide what category, and then there is all the logistic to prepare on place, the travel. It's a kind of travel agency, so it's not so easy to handle.
Luca, you'd mentioned earlier that competition makes you better, and you mentioned some big stations around the world. Who are the stations that you think are most formidable, and where does CN3A, your buddy Stefano, fit into that equation?
Yeah, of course, CN3A, it's clear that they are top level stations, and I can as a D4C member, I can understand also their difficulty to keep this kind of station running, even if they are logistically closer to Europe. Flights are cheaper, so you can fly more, and so you can have a different approach on the problems. But of course, it's also for Stefano. I think it's a matter of competition and feelings, and I'm very grateful that he's so active from the station, and I hope he get the same feeling with us, because I think this competition bring us in a different, not word, but different dimension of respect and responsibility to be clear with each other, and this is a very important. As a human, it's very important, I think, to keep also these things. And then there are other stations, of course. The Eco Alpha 8 station, when they were active, it was really a beacon for us to follow, because their signal was, they are closer to Europe, so they have some advantage, especially on the low bands. They are louder, they have good openings. The band is opening a little bit earlier than us, so we are first in the band. So we were also fascinating how they manage this station up on the hill in Canary. That is not easy at all. Definitely not easy at all.
Well, Luca, I really appreciate you taking time today. And as we talked about earlier before the camera started, I hope we can do part 2 actually from D4C sometime in the next couple of weeks. But I really appreciate you taking time today.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Anytime you want, I have so many things to tell you that we can really make a movie, actually.
Well, that's fantastic. So I'm going to keep you to that promise. We'll do part 2. We'll do it soon. I've been talking to Luca IK2NCJ. I really admire what he's done at D4C, and he truly has a legendary ham radio career that we can all learn something from. Thanks again, Luca.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Keep up with a good job.